So before I get started on this video, I feel it's important to give a no script disclaimer here, just from the bottom of my heart. So I'm not going to be reading anything for this. But as you can see from the title, this is going to be a more serious video. And I was even debating back and forth before I made this video whether or not this is a good idea for the second video of the channel. But I don't know, it's an urgent topic to me. It was on my mind, so I decided this is what needed to be said right now, and I felt like recording it. So I don't really think it matters at what time or at what point in this channel that I talk about this subject, but I think it's important regardless to speak about. And that being said, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice, even though I clearly identify as one, as you can tell by my channel's name. But obviously, no, I'm not offering medical advice here. And we will be talking about mental health issues, right? So that's a heavy topic here. So if you don't want to hear anything about that, this just isn't the video for you. But that being said, I don't think you need to be a doctor to be talking about this stuff, okay? I'm not telling you what to do. Obviously, if you have some sort of like medical issue that needs to be treated in an actual like way that needs to be supervised by a professional, that's gonna have nothing to do with what's gonna go on in this video, okay? All I'm talking about is my personal experience with living with ADHD, and then why I think it's so important to have good habits to counteract that, right? I mean, that makes sense. This isn't medical advice. Again, this is so important. This stuff needs to be talked about, and this isn't life advice either. This is just like, as you can tell from the video, I truly believe if you have ADHD, guys, you have to train, okay? Maybe it doesn't have to be necessarily lifting weights or bodybuilding or hypertrophy. To me, that's one of the easier ways. You can train for a sport, I guess. That comes with its own set of issues that I can go into later, but you need to train. Okay, this is a non-negotiable. This is not optional. For most people in life, training is going to be optional to whether or not they can be, I guess, I don't want to say happy and fulfilled, but happy and fulfilled, okay? For them to be organized on a day-to-day basis, for them to feel whole like a human. Training is a nice addition for most people's lives and a tool that'll often get them there in one of the quickest ways, I would say, no matter who you are, okay? But dude, if you're like me, where your ADHD is just off the charts, this is not an option for you. This is essential. You have to train. For your survival, you have to, okay? So, hang on. So in usual ADHD fashion, leaving things all over the place, not knowing where I put them. I looked up and made eye contact with my coffee that I was looking for the last 5 minutes. Okay. So, first of all, I want to go over the link between ADHD and exercise, okay? Now, while it's not a solution, exercise has always been kind of understood ever since we've studied the links between exercise and ADHD. It's been understood that exercise is beneficial. Even things as basic as pacing during a conversation helps somebody with ADHD and plenty of other neurological atypicalities to focus on what's being said. That's one example, and it's very, very small, but that effect gets magnified, okay, by more intense types of exercise, and you get different types of benefits, okay? But the point is, ADHD and exercise has always been linked ever since we studied the two in a positive manner, okay? And there's something to this, right? Scientifically, it's been proven over and over and over again that anyone pretty much who is neurodivergent is like exercise will help you emotionally regulate, okay? It'll help you organize your thoughts. It's good for you, okay? I mean, it's good for everybody, and it'll probably do those things for everybody, but especially you, okay? It's essential to your emotional regulation. And emotional regulation, I would say, is the main thing that most people with ADHD probably struggle with. Because it affects your energy levels. And when we talk about ADHD, right, in a scientific sense, it's about, right, dopamine and serotonin, certain chemicals not being balanced in your brain, particularly in the frontal lobe. Sometimes serotonin isn't being properly it's not. I'm not going to get into the molecular science of this shit, but basically you don't have the right chemical balance floating around in your brain, right? At least that's what you're told. I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to bother with that shit because that's not my area of expertise. My area of expertise is being able to make really smart observations about what's going on in my own brain and being able to form philosophies based on how I see that interacting with the world and the similarities I see through other people's behavior, through their language, etc. Okay? So your energy levels, right? Particularly your emotional and mental energy is, this is primarily going to manifest in physical ways too. Like you're gonna feel tired, you're gonna look tired, you're gonna look inattentive, whatever. Anyways, these energy levels are either gonna go like sky high, like through the roof, right, to the moon, or it's just going to absolutely plummet to the center of the earth. And it seems like with us, there's no in between, right? And the reason for that, okay, is because I'm gonna give this a name, okay? I hate names, but this one might be helpful. Let's call it task stimulation threshold, okay? Basically, the requisite level of interestingness that a task has to have in order for you to actually be motivated to do it is extremely high. But that doesn't mean your sensitivity to that motivation is any higher than an average person. So when you do reach that level of it's stimulating enough for you to be motivated to do it, you're gonna be super, hyper, crazy motivated to do it, and that's what leads to that hyperfixation that's always talked about. Okay, because it's like that threshold is near your maximum level of motivation or stimulation just by default. Okay, so that's something to understand about yourself if you're someone like me. Okay, what does this have to do with lifting then? Well, so lifting is about, if I could just sum it up in one word, it's habits. Okay, lifting is about habits. And the main thing that your energy levels, your motivation levels, either being completely on or completely off, the main thing that's doing is it's disrupting your day-to-day habits. Look, guys, unfortunately, we do live in a world that is bound by rules. And I'm not even talking about the rules we create, that man creates. I'm talking about, like, on a deeper level, like the sun rises at a certain time, it falls at a certain time. You know, there's certain physical laws of nature that sometimes our brains don't like, or doesn't want to organize itself according to that. And lifting kind of teaches you, like, to an extent, you know, tough. You know, you have to learn to distinguish between the rules that are stupid and that are unneeded and that are just arbitrary, set by other people, versus rules that are actually kind of like natural or maybe even like essential. Does that kind of make sense? So when you're so like dependent on these emotional or motivational highs in order to get going, you're gonna realize that a lot of these days are slipping by you, man, because it's not falling, like your motivation levels is not rising and falling like with your circadian rhythm, if that makes any sense. Your emotional patterns isn't following a quote unquote normal day-to-day pattern. It's why you struggle with like certain jobs that are maybe monotonous or the same schedule all the time with no change. Or it's not like there's not a lot of rapid like changing in your responsibilities. Maybe you've been stuck at one position for a long time and you hate life, and it's because of that. Okay, so understanding your your emotions and the impulses that you have, and not just either believing them entirely and saying, okay, I feel this way, so this is how, like, the world just sucks, like, and then being entitled about it, or the other way around and just like completely numbing yourself to those emotions and impulses and just completely losing yourself and losing touch with who you are. Like, you have to understand what your emotions and impulses actually mean, okay? You can't interpret them the wrong way in either extreme. You have to interpret them correctly, okay? These are still signals from your body. You have to understand and remember that you matter, okay? And interpreting these signals from your body therefore still matters. You just have to interpret them properly, and it might be a little bit more challenging for you, but that doesn't mean you can't do it, bro. Like, it's quite easy when you get the hang of it, okay? But it's a skill that when you lift weights and you track your workouts and you are interested in getting bigger and stronger and improving yourself in a measurable way, this is a skill that you're forced to build, okay? So when you're lifting weights, you're basically building the exact thing that if you have ADHD, you probably struggle with the most, okay? So I'll give you a concrete example of that. It's really common for people with ADHD. I know I used to struggle with this, with dysregulated. I'm not going to say disordered because it's not necessarily disordered, okay? But dysregulated eating habits, meaning you might not notice that you're hungry or thirsty until that hunger or thirst becomes very extreme. And this is often just because we're fixated on what we're doing right now. Like, I'll talk for 20 minutes and my mouth might get dry 5 minutes through, but unless I actually think about it and remind myself, like, hey dude, it's okay to take a break and take a sip of water or drink your coffee. Like, if I wasn't talking about this right now, I probably wouldn't have done that. And I probably would have went this whole video with a dry mouth, and then at the end, like, wondered why my mouth is dry. Like, I don't notice those things at the moment because I'm so focused on what I'm trying to say here. And so this might be something that you struggle with too. And this leads to indecisiveness, okay? With food choices, right? You get cooking paralysis, right? You're so hungry, you don't even know what you're hungry for. And you don't really know what to cook, you don't know what to eat, you don't know how much to eat of what you're eating, etc. And so when you have the goal of creating a godlike physique, that stuff becomes taken care of, man. Like, this is going to be a common theme in this video. First of all, if you're a reader, you need to go read Madness and Civilization by Michel Foucault. It will change your life. Obviously, you should read Freud. I mean, everyone should read Freud. Everyone should read Plato. You need to read The Republic if you haven't, particularly the cave allegory. That's, I think, book 7, or part 7 in the Republic. Yeah. Anyways. But you need to read Madness and Civilization by Foucault. What you need to understand about yourself is that a lot of people are going to look at the things that you need to do to regulate yourself to function in the world properly as disorders, okay? Because your brain works differently from theirs, and that's not how they would have to do it. So I'm sure many people would think I have an eating disorder, okay? I don't. I eat the same thing pretty much every single day, almost, but I don't feel, it's not restrictive. Okay, it's a vegan diet for the most part, but it's not restrictive. Okay, like if I'm gonna go out, I'm moving soon, so I'm celebrating with a lot of people before I leave. Like, I'm making a lot of plans with people. Do you think that's not gonna involve like eating food outside of my diet? Like, of course it is. But a lot of people would look at what I do to achieve my goals in a way that I'm measurable about it, and they would look at it as disorder. Okay, but it's not. Because all it is I'm eating to fuel my goals. Like, if your goal is to live life healthily and happily, and you eat in order to like support that, like you just eat a normal healthy diet, which by the way, that's what I do. Like, I just eat a healthy diet. It's full of like fruits, vegetables, like healthy stuff. Like it's whole foods. It's whole foods. It's clean foods. Anyways, if you're eating to support health and happiness, how is that any different from eating to also support gains which falls directly in line with health and happiness as well. I don't get it, right? So just because I'm eating in a more regimented cycle than you, or that it's a more selected food choice that I can stick to more consistently, that doesn't make it disordered. And you can't be afraid of that, bro. Like, you can't be afraid of becoming this person who eats at the same time every day, who eats the same thing every day. You can't look at that as and be like, oh, that like I'm a boring person. Like, one of the things that's gonna hold you back a lot in life is, especially with ADHD, is this like, I guess I've heard of this a lot, like this, and I experience it a lot, is like this lack of identity. And this lack of identity will often cause you to fear doing anything or sticking to anything because you don't want to commit to an identity. That's why you lack that identity in the first place. Like, everything's exciting. You don't want to feel trapped into a singular person or way of being, and you don't want other people to be able to box you in. And I get that, bro. Here's the thing, dude. Who the fuck cares about what you, like, it's no one's business what you put in your mouth, dude. No one should be able to tell you that except if you're young, like your parents, obviously. Like, listen to them. If they're feeding you dog shit, listen to me, not them. But if they're telling you to eat healthy, listen to them. If they're feeding you healthy stuff, eat their shit. Eat their food, eat the stuff that they cook for you, okay? Because it's good for you, all right? But other than that, it should be no one's concern what you are putting in your body except you, okay? So this idea that it has anything to do with your personality, you need to get that out of your brain and chuck that out the window. It has nothing to do with your personality, okay? But going back to my main point, lifting fixes all those things, man. So there are a lot of habits like this. When you wake up, when you go to bed, when you do this, when you do that, a lot of those things are going to be questions that are answered by, okay, what's going to support lifting? What's going to support my lifting goals? Well, I probably need to get a good amount of sleep, 6 to 8 hours per night at least, right? Okay, so that's going to require me to go to bed at a certain time and get up at a certain time, because I also have to go to the gym, right? And I don't want to just be going to the gym at random times throughout the day, unpredictable about my energy levels. So I'm probably going to find a time to go to the gym that works for me and stick to that, which means that a lot of my day is going to be built around that. And it just kind of all falls into place like, you know, like dominoes, okay? It's a domino effect. One thing leads to another thing leads to another. You realize, oh, this habit supports this habit, supports this habit, supports this habit. And it gets easier and easier, okay? But it is hard off the bat, dude. I do get it, okay? So if you're struggling with getting started, listen, this is another thing. I'll just throw this in there real quick. You might just not be ready, dude. That's okay. You're not ready yet. You'll be ready eventually. And when you're ready, you'll have all that you need to know right here, okay? I used to be a swimmer. When I was like 13, man, I would, sometimes, like, it was really common, like, so we'd have to get out of the pool late at night after practice, and it'd be freezing sometimes, like in the winter, and the locker room was hella far away. Like, the locker room, you had to climb up a lot of steps too. Anyways, it was windy as shit, it was cold. Sometimes I'd get out the pool and I'd put my towel on, and everybody else had the common sense to just like sprint to the showers, even though it was cold as hell and windy. And when I don't know if you've ever been a swimmer before. If you don't, you don't really know. Well, if you've been in the pool before, you know this. When you get out the pool, every step that you take like makes you colder. If you're cold, like every step you take, every time you move, like it feels like you get colder. So sometimes I would just sit there shivering with my towel on for like 20 or 30 minutes before I got my ass to the locker room. And it was literally for no other reason other than I didn't want to get colder. I was okay sitting there suffering and shivering, and other people would look at me like, what the fuck? Like, and of course, right, I would look at me like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Just fucking go to the locker. Take 30 seconds to sprint to the locker room and get warm. Why didn't I do it? It's not because I'm stupid. It's not because I'm crazy. It's not because I'm lazy. It's not because I'm insane, okay? Not because I'm mentally ill. This is how my brain works. I wasn't ready yet. I was processing, okay? That didn't last forever. But if that's you, man, I see you sitting there shivering. It's okay, dude. I get that you're just not ready yet. Anyways. But you do need to eventually go. This is not, like I said, if you have ADHD, lifting weights is non-negotiable, okay? Through lifting, you're gonna learn to realize what people have told you is a disability. It's not, dude. Okay, it's a strength. It's a strength. I'm gonna prove it to you in a second, okay? So I got a lot of points here. This is probably gonna be a long one. Okay, first of all, lifting even though it structuralizes your world, like I just said, and a lot of people with ADHD can't stand structure, you actually need structure. Like, you know you do. We all need structure, and we probably need it the most. So this structuralizes your world according to your own terms. You can't get a better deal than that, man. For the way your brain works, you can't get a better deal than that. It is your own personal goals that are driving the structure. It's your own health. It is your own interests that drives you towards these goals. And so often, if you struggle with intrinsic motivation, right? Which leads you to quit things after not trying them for long enough to be like competitive, but like maybe you did it long enough to like derive some sort of, I mean, you didn't do it long enough to derive some sort of fulfillment, but maybe you did do it long enough to be somewhat competitive at it, and then you got bored. That's what I'm trying to say. Like lifting, that's why I'm saying it's like different from sports. Lifting, there is no point at which those points don't exist. There's no point at which you're competitive because you're competing with yourself right off the bat. And there's no point where you derive fulfillment because you're never big enough. Okay? So lifting weights will channel your all or nothing spirit in the most beautiful fucking way possible, bro. I am serious about that. Like, and this, not just like ADHD, a lot of neurodivergent people have the tendency to hyperfixate and notice small details that other people don't. Lifting, technique, programming, all of these things that, like, these little advantages that most people won't consider, that you will consider, are going to be game changers for you. And it's going to make you good at this. Okay? Again, this is a strength if you choose the right things. Most importantly, I know that you feel disgust with imperfection. You're obsessed with your flaws, you're obsessed with the flaws of others, and ultimately this is what's going to drive you to greatness, bro. It's not a bad thing. It just needs to be channeled in a way that's not harmful. Okay? Just like lifting. It's just like lifting. Your effort, your intensity, you need that shit. That's what you want. The technique is just, how do we channel it in a way that it's not going to hurt you? It's going to be safe. Okay? So, ADHD can cause feelings of helplessness and a lack of agency. Why? Because we feel powerless to make the world match our expectations, right? So when you give it your all, you just try as hard as you can, you do everything that you think is right, and you don't receive what you think is all of that, you don't receive it all back from the world, I know that makes you angry, man. I know it does. It's exhausting, right? After that, you want to avoid that like ever doing that again. And so your brain avoids doing things because it doesn't want to feel that disappointment again. Okay? But listen, dude, through lifting, you're going to regain that agency because you're going to learn how many things actually are under your control and can be mastered, but only through patience in the long run and through habits. Does that make sense? Okay. So let me give you an example of that, I guess, because that's kind of vague, right? So like things like something like I was just talking about diet, for example, right? So a lot of people will quit on a diet because it doesn't work right away for them, and so they feel like, I gave it my all, I suffered, I was hungry, and I didn't get what I expected from that. Well, you're gonna learn through the process of creating a healthy diet, and let's say you want to either gain weight or cut weight. You're gonna learn that through that process of you, because this is inevitable, you are going to learn that you're gonna have to like fight your own self, like your brain. You're gonna have to tell your brain like, no, you have to be defiant. Look at it as an authority figure and be defiant against it. Like if it doesn't want to eat, but you know you have to eat, you gotta eat. If you want to eat, but you know you're not supposed to eat, you just have to not eat, right? So like a lot of people don't get the immediate benefits of that in a diet, and so they quit on that, right? Because they feel that lack of control. You're actually gonna be in the opposite direction. The more that your body tells you something that you don't want, you are going to become like that competitive drive in you. You're gonna be motivated even harder to do it, right? You're defiant by nature, and that's Dude, this is what I'm saying. Like, this is a superpower, man. Like, I was telling people this. Like, if you're neurotypical, you're not gonna fucking understand this shit, dude. When I was doing my my last cut down to 10% to get shredded, I'll have pictures of that. Okay, up here, when I was doing my last cut, there were times where I would get really hungry. And my strategy to avoid that was I would literally just in my head, I would imagine that hunger as an asshole coach or teacher or some, like somebody I viewed as an idiot in the past that I did not respect, who had arbitrary power over me to control me, who was telling me to do something that I didn't want to do. And I externalized that hunger, that feeling, I externalized it into that. And that made me angry. And that anger outweighed the hunger. I said, well, fuck you, body. You're saying I have to eat. Let me show you I don't. Okay? That sounds fucking psychopathic to most people, and I didn't even realize that until I kind of just said it casually to some people. They like the looks on their faces, guys. But if you are like me, you actually relate to that. I know you get what I'm saying. I know you feel me on that. That intensity, dude, don't lose it. People will tell you it's bad. People will tell you, however it manifests in your life, it might manifest even in toxic ways, and people might even have a point, but it's not about the intensity, dude. You can't lose the intensity. You have to learn how to channel it, man. Okay? So let's go into that next thing, right? The problems with authority, right? Because I know you have problems with authority. I have major problems with authority. Through lifting, you're going to learn how to distinguish proper authority and to submit to proper authority, because you're going to receive a very visceral example of that. Okay, you're going to have to learn how to submit to your body and consider your body an authority in some ways. Okay, meaning that, like, if your body's not responding to a certain diet or a certain type of training, you are gonna have to work with it and listen to it and hear its communicate and be a good listener and work with it over time to fix these problems. And it might not be immediate right away. So you're gonna have to learn how to basically be a team player. Yeah. And through that, you're gonna learn that submission is actually freedom. Obedience, okay, is authority. You will obey your body, and your body will obey you back by getting bigger and stronger, exactly what you demanded of it. Does the master truly teach the dog? That's what I want, or train the dog. That's what I want to know from you guys. Think about that, right? From the dog's perspective, it could be the other way around. Oh, I got this guy feeding me at the exact same time. I just got to do this little trick, and he's going to give me this. I know exactly when he's going to take me outside for a walk. Like, everything that is regimented from the master's side in order for the sake of the dog. Maybe the dog is, you could say the dog's manipulating the master. You could say the dog is training the master, right? And you could say the student teaches the teacher. So you have to understand this dualistic contradiction, this perspective of like, that both are true, okay? So you just have to understand who and what purpose you're serving. And then that's what matters, and then it'll all make sense. The next thing that you're going to learn from lifting, and the thing that you're going to be good at in the context of lifting because of your ADHD, is focusing on the present moment, okay? Having mindfulness, okay? So ADHD in normal understimulating life makes our brain tell us to skip ahead to the next thing once the good part or exciting part of something is over. And I know for a fact that if you have ADHD, you have never finished the crust on a slice of pizza before the age of 13. I know that because you just want the next slice. Who gives a fuck about that stupid ass crust? Unless it was cheesy crust or some shit like that, right? So come back to me after training your calves, necks, abs, and forearms for a year and do cardio every single day, and then come back and tell me you still don't know how to live in the present moment, right? So, but here's the thing, right? Understimulating life, it's hard to be present because you're constantly focused on the next thing. But lifting is literally pure, like, think about what lifting is. Think about my last video, what I talked about with what essentially like lifting is supposed to be for. It is literally synonymous with stimulation. So lifting is stimulation, and when you're trying to lift for hypertrophy, you want the maximum amount of stimulation. which means every single one of your gym sessions, you are automatically gonna be laser focused, mindful, in the moment, because that amount of intense stimulation that would make neurotypicals puke is gonna be the only thing that gets you going. Does that make sense? It's gonna make you're gonna be entertained by this shit, man. You're gonna be in the fire of an 8 rep max on that 7th or 8th rep, and when most people would quit, you're gonna be like, I wanna know what this feels like, because I know that you have this curiosity for sensations that other people don't have. You wanna know what this feels like. Okay. 1 rep at a time, 1 set at a time, 1 workout at a time, 1 week at a time, until those weeks become months, those months become years, and the years become decades, and the decades become a lifetime. Okay? This mentality is what is required to grow, right, in the gym. It's also what is required to achieve any delayed gratification in life. And I know that you want things in life that are outside of just the moment, right? The pleasures of like the immediate environment, right? I know there are long-term goals that you have. You guys aren't lazy, you're not unambitious, okay? It's just that delayed gratification requires you to do a lot of shit that is understimulating, and you just like, you're gonna find it beneath you, right? So kind of look at lifting as an introduction to that, because while yes, everything's gonna be stimulating, still nobody likes to train abs, right? Let's be honest. No one likes to train abs. It's not fun. No one likes to train, well, neck might be, I like to train neck. Forearms too. Who doesn't like a good forearm pump? But the calves and abs, you see what I'm saying, right? Even like the hamstrings for me, man. Like there's gonna, what I'm saying is there's gonna be a muscle group for you that for some reason, whether it's a lagging muscle group or maybe it's even a strength and so you don't care about it anymore, but there's gonna be a muscle group that you don't like training that, bro, if you keep training over and over again, you force yourself to like it, you're going to be able to apply that mindset to other areas of your life, okay? The benign banalities, terrible alliteration from me, of life. I don't know why I said that, benign, but that was fucking cringe. But when you are present with your, all of that like kind of boredom and well, first of all, when you learn to become present with the pain in these exercises, you're gonna learn to be present with your boredom. And when you stare at that face of pain long enough, when you truly have like, I would describe it as almost communion with it, not to get like religious or too spiritual about it, but it is a matter of the spirit, okay? You're going to recognize its beauty. And once you recognize its beauty, you are going to become an addict to it. And this is kind of like the ultimate point of how these all come together with lifting and ADHD is like, dude, life is pain for you. But think about, be self-aware, man. You love pain. You love it. Because pain is feeling, it's sensation. It reminds you that you're alive. As long as you believe in the right context. Lifting is one example of that. You know that this pain is gonna make you bigger and stronger. Why wouldn't you love it? Why wouldn't you? All right, so it reminds me of this, I'm gonna end with this quote by Khalil Gibran, which by the way, this is another, so read Madness and Civilization by Foucault, and then once you're done, read The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, okay? Read The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. The one quote from that book, okay? Your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding. It is the bitter potion by which the physician inside you heals your sick self. Therefore, trust the physician and drink his remedy in silence and tranquility. I'm gonna leave you guys with that quote, okay? I know this was a long one, this was a serious one, may not have been what you were expecting right off the bat, but if you're anything like me, you're gonna relate to this. I think this was really important. So I need you guys to go fucking train. Just go train. Start now. Now is the time. And if you're